things are flying out, so I'm just going to let them fly, see what happens here. As we figure out what to say today, as we come together, it's a long time. It's been a long time.
All of yous. Oh my gosh. Mercury is still in retrograde very much. It is going direct, which is great. And we'll just go with the communication as it comes.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that, like, we're not starting anything. We're just continuing something that's been going on for a really long time. And so it's really cool that we're able to be here right now to allow the channel to come true. Oh, well, that was a good mix-up. Yep. Instead of come through, it said come true. I'll take it. Yeah. But I will take it. As balance comes right out of the deck, as we say that. I'll just add that to the story as the cards are coming through.
I wish this could be live. I miss having people like interact with us.
I do too. Yeah. I was thinking that actually today. So that can be something that we can actually chat about right now as that energy is coming through, and we're really magnetizing to the energy of our peoples and our families of the earth, is that once we get 1,000 followers on YouTube, then we are allowed to go live.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, because you got the community. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the first.
So since we're just starting this channel, we need to kind of just pull in our teams and our families around and say, click subscribe. I know that's kind of like a cliche thing for what our marketing and our like love of energy pull is, but like click subscribe, like, because then we're able to go live and, bring everyone in with us, which is
true.
What we look for. New relationships. Like, this is the card I'm holding as we're talking about that.
I know. I want new friends.
New friends. Like, and that's just physical affirmation of sharing our concerns with others, social events, invitations, experiences, taking everyone's input into consideration and merging viewpoints. Cool.
Yeah.
That was the balance card. That's cool, because we're just sitting here asking about why we're here and like what our topic is, instead of going ahead and being like, what is our topic? Is that what's coming up through the cards right now was balance, new relationships, seeking out intellectual support, unexpected changes, letting go of what doesn't serve us, taking time to stand into our action and being fearless. And so I think it's really cool because we're just really feeling that. I think that was the conversations leading up to coming on here right now, was that we feel that voice inside of us. We feel the balance coming in, and that we desire to share and to support and to hear from others. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the new moon still. So the new moon energy is really coming through. And with us moving into Gemini and Mercury being in a retrograde, and it's going stationary on the 3rd, right now, all the seeds that we plant will last for the next 6 months. And so it's really like when we're intentional about the balance, about the new relationships that we're building, about like all of these unexpected changes, and then taking time to stand into that action, everything that you just said, when you focus your energy on that and you're really intentional about how you're going to be, where you're going to be spending your time, you'll get to see all of it come into fruition in the next 6 months. So it's like, it's so funny because with Mother Trees, the group that you started for the new moon ceremony, I feel like it was about planting the seed, and that's very much what we're doing right now. We're planting the seed. We planted the seeds, right? And now it's cultivating it and giving it more life.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because it's feeding those tools into manifestation. And I think manifestation seems so far out of reach for so many people. It's like, it's kind of like gone into the like, yeah, whatever world. But I feel like what you just said put that real tangible, like touchable aspects onto the manifestation. And the new moon really sets us up for that, for those next 6 months, like you just said. And if we can visualize, okay, what do these next 6 months look like? What does the end goal look like? And then when we come back to our day-to-day, well, what are we doing to stair step towards that goal? And in that stair step and in that energy of what that looks like, here we are in the conversation and taking those stair steps to manifest forward, and also just allowing it to flow, because we really don't know, and we're really okay with the unfolding of what these conversations hold and how they take forward. And I think, just to mention, this is what we were doing before. This is 10 years ago. Rue, you were an original, and go ahead. What?
I was like, it's 10 years? Has it been 10 years? I feel like 2015 was really when we started momentum on it, right? So it's been 7 years, which is amazing.
Okay.
Because what happens in 7 years is it's a new cycle, right? Like, we talk about, well, I know you and I were the feminine, we're all about our cycles. So what's amazing about the human body is that every 7 years we have completely new cells that come, like, that form on our body. So what happens is we're a completely new person every 7 years. And so, yeah, it's wild. It has been about 7 years since we first met. Like, that's crazy.
I was working to remember, because it's like time flies. That's why I was like, it's in the 10-year bracket. But okay, 7 makes more sense, because that's where those cycles start to come back and remind you. It like circles back around, and here we are circling back around. So it definitely makes more sense in my fairy spatial ness of time that it would be 7 years.
It's even more magical than the 10, which, I mean, 10 is great.
Really
I love 10. But 7, there's just, it's freaking wild to be present to that number. That's spirituality. That's the divine. 7 is always the divine. 7 is one of my favorite numbers.
It really is. And I remember learning in the different classes that I would take about energy healing, we actually had to do a process where we had to review the 7 years, starting as far back as we could remember. And we had to write about it. I still have it somewhere. And it was really, really cool to see those patterns, because the thing that we don't realize about these patterns is that they show up possibly in different people. The cool thing about our pattern that's happening right now is that we get to do it together, and we're coming into this spiral again together. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it shows up in another person or another situation that's in, maybe you worked in an office building that was similar, and now you're in a different office building that's similar, but it's been 7 years since you've worked in an office building. But it's a completely different situation. And so those are the things that you're like, oh, wow, that could be 7 years. And you may not realize it's the 7 years, but it really does show up in those really cool ways. So that was really cool to point in on.
Well, you mentioned the exercise. Like, can you say a little bit more about that 7-year exercise that you did?
Sure. It was basically to think and sit with yourself. So it's going into those meditative mindfulness spaces, to remember back into those times that happened. What year was 7 years back from that? What year was 7 years back from that? And possibly when they say, okay, in 1987, you're like, well, I don't know what was happening there. Okay, so you can ask your parents, or ask a family member, ask some friends from school, look at some pictures, get your memory jiving about those times that are happening, to bring yourself back to these moments, and make notes about the questions that you're asking. And it might take a little bit of time, and that's why it was a process. She didn't have us just do it overnight, like, oh, just download this and do it. It took us a few weeks to really dive into where we're at in time, and the things that have come up for us. And usually, spirit, the universe, the mind inside of you, someone around you is going to give you those little nuggets, if you will, to take note of, as the little moth just gave us transformation, to allow us to transform in those patterns that come to us and go, okay, I see how I've grown. Okay, I see how I haven't grown. Is this pattern coming back around to allow me to grow further, or is it allow me to ride into what's next? And you can kind of see where you're at along that pattern, especially for someone like me, I'm very visual. For those of us that are visual, it really helps to write it down, maybe draw some pictures, put some pictures in from the history of that to remind you to bring up what's happening, because then you can actually see those patterns and play it out. So it's a really good tool to help you see where you're at and where you're going.
Yeah, I really love that, is because it gives the people, like, the challenge and the trouble with today, I feel like, is everybody being stuck in their head, right? Like, including myself. Like, there are times when we're just lost in thought. And so being able to get those memories, get those thoughts out in conversation or out in some sort of project, just to notate and document and maybe journal about that, that's super useful. Especially for the people who are going on down that path of mindfulness and like really taking off the blinders of who they thought they were and allow themselves to be who they really want to be.
Love that. I love that. Because it really takes it to the next level. If you're really able to look at those patterns and really see where you're at, is that you can level up for yourself, for your own self-love, which is amazing, because not only is it good for you, but it's good for your family, and it's good for the humanity and planet Earth, which is so cool, because when we're able to find those patterns and really release, because some of those patterns really hold a lot of pain for us, and sometimes we're really holding on to them when they come back up. And I can give some examples of, possibly feeling my own energy frustrations around a workplace, and being reminded of taking out some of those aggressions on people at work, or situations at work, and then having another job years later that is very similar, and noticing those same emotions coming up. And it's a very cool opportunity to say, oh, wow, those are my emotions. Oh, wow, I'm in the same situation. These people are different. These people have nothing to do with my emotions, with my experience and my spiral that has come back around, because I've taken notes of my 7 years. I've taken notes of where I'm at and what's coming back around me. So I'm here, and now I'm faced with, okay, this is going to be coming up for me. And also, let's not take it so literal, guys. Like, I just want to put that out for those of you that are watching us, is that it may not be 7 years on the dot. Okay. Give yourself a few months to rotate it. Right? It's not going to happen to the date. And if it does, great. That's magic. That's real synergy coming in. And if you're able to be that a personality that has that written down and has that actual come up, please put a comment below, and we'd love to talk to you about the magic. That kind of stuff we like.
It's so true. It's so funny. Especially, that's the one thing that I can count on with life, is those cycles. They come and they go, and they come and they go. And if you can find out what your patterns are, especially if you're more attuned with the feminine is all about cycles. We follow that feminine flow. The masculine doesn't necessarily have those cycles. Right. There are the cycles of like the seasons, the moon cycles, the year cycles. But when it comes to like how people operate, the masculine is designed to be able to work a full work day and feel like accomplished and feel purposeful. The feminine, we're not designed that way. We are designed to rest when we're meant to rest. Like, especially when you think about the menstrual cycle, like when our menstrual cycle is happening, that's our time to rest, to like listen in, to tune in. That's when we're our most magnificent, is when we're going through our menstrual cycle, because we're getting so much so much cleansing. There's cleansing. There's so many downloads that come through. Like our intuition is heightened during that time. And it's really our time to just like rest and listen. Then come at the peak of our cycle when I'm not an expert on this by any means, but what I've noticed is when I'm at the peak of my cycle, when I'm the most magnetic is typically around the full moon, when I'm wanting to do work, when I'm wanting to be around people. And so knowing how my energy is going to be during those times allows me to be the most productive in my day-to-day life. And it's with every woman, it's different. It's just how it is.
No, I absolutely love that. And I also feel like, within masculine and feminine and men nowadays, and I feel like within the evolution of us is that it's embracing both. And that we both have masculine and feminine energy. And definitely with us women, we are designed to actually live and be in it a little bit more. And I feel like embracing that some of us are coming in feeling a little bit more like a different type of gender and feeling like what that is. So what is the feminine for us and what is the masculine for us? And it's really finding that balance for what it is and what that cycle is. And so it's like, yes, like our menstrual cycle, it's also like thinking about giving birth to a baby, right? So it's like, what do they train you when you're in Lamaze class, right? It's like push, it's like give. Right? And then you're going to go breathe and then give. And so that's the circle, right? And so that's the cycle of push, wait. Push, wait. And then the waiting is when we're able to actually come back around and allow that circle to complete and let that circle to complete. And I think that's really the cycle of the feminine is really knowing when it's like that push is just done. And we gotta just let it rest. And I think for men that cycle is somewhere in there as well, and they, like you said, they can push a little bit more because their energy is more like the masculine's like, if you were to put it, it would be in the spring energy in 5-element theory, and the energy it's literally like what I just did. It's like, and so there's just really just a give to it, and it only does that, and then it just kind of dissipates, and then it.
What's
right,
funny?
and so
I'm noticing as we're talking, we're using, because we're so familiar with each other, we're using a lot of language that I know that not a lot of people understand, right? We're like, oh, there's this modality and there's this modality, and like, hold on, let's put it all together, and how does it all work? And I'm like, wow, if I was listening to this for the first time, I'd be like, man, this sounds cool, but I have no idea what's going on. But I feel good, so I'm just going to stay and listen and see what happens.
I absolutely love it. And I think there's super valuable tools as we go off on these tangents because, I think that's us leaning into what we know and value being here, like why we're just like, okay, we're going to be here because we know that speaking from our heart and speaking from these ways is out there. So I think I love that you said that. And honestly, for those of you that are feeling confused, please comment and ask what you're confused about because we would love to come on here and chat about that and really clarify.
I do want to put a plug in. Because Erin, when we were first learning and discovering and rediscovering and unlearning all of these things, she's actually spent a lot of time and is really passionate about giving people access to language and being able to express exactly how they're feeling with the chakras. She's got a bunch of classes that she can tell you more about, and she's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to how we experience the world, especially if you're somebody who feels like you're an empath or you feel like somebody that you feel like a little different, but you're not quite sure why you feel different. She's a really great first step when it comes to learning about all of this.
Thanks, Rue. I appreciate that, love. And yes, 100%. I got tools to step us in. And you know what's super interesting is that for so long it was really hard to own that, like, no, I have tools. But it's like, you know, I think for me is that I was screaming for those tools and had no idea that I needed them. And so to be able to share them is just something that is really exciting for me. It's like being able to unleash a playground and cut that like cord and let the kids go run and play. And so for me, it just feels like exciting. And so maybe there's a new word other than tools. Maybe it's equipment in the gym or on the playground that you can go and enjoy and jump through the hoops to find more love for ourselves, because there is just like so much pain and stress, emotional disarray, anxiety, impressions upon our humanity right now that we need it. So thank you for that love, Ru. And really fast, as we're giving this love, I got to turn it back on you because you have so much heart, and I have 4 kids that you support bringing into this world and showing them that conscious mind as much as you can, and leaning in and asking those questions, which is the most we can ask for, because so many of us mothers don't know how to ask those questions. And I know that you spin within that for yourself, that how amazing are you that you're upholding that and building amazing projects that are making a difference to support these children and the parents and mothers that are making a difference, like with Little Entrepreneurs, and allowing these kids to actually excel within who they are and be who they are and be the example of consciousness. So I'm just excited to see you flourish as your tree in humanity as well, because this is the language.
Yeah, let's talk about those moms, right? Like it's, you know, firsthand, first of all, like, and it's really great because I think what brought me back into the conversation was Mother Trees and your commitment to just listen and be there for other moms, whether you're a mom who has biological children, or if you're birthing projects, or even if you like have fur babies, like there's that nurturing essence of raising life and creating life that we all have in common. When you mentioned a little bit about my story, like I feel like a lot of moms right now, and maybe before, but I do know, I can't speak for the other ones unless you want to be a part of the conversation. So drop a comment if you want to be a part of the conversation, because we want to make new friends. But what I do know about moms is it can feel lonely sometimes. And it feels lonely because here we are. I've gone through my trauma of being raised, and then here I am bringing life into the world and having this responsibility of, wow, I don't want to raise my children the way that I was raised, and I want to create a world where they can play, because I also want a world where I can play. I'm very committed to experiencing heaven on earth and everybody around me experiencing that. And so my journey is to discover what that is for myself and help, support others in seeking that for themselves. So as a mom whose parents were from a third world country, have a completely different belief system, a completely different culture, come to America, and then being presented with so many different ways to raise children, how can I discover how I want to parent as well? And so what was great about meeting Erin for the first time is all of those thoughts, all of those like feelings of anxiety, that feeling, those thoughts of comparison started to quiet down a little bit, because she would give me like she'd do her thing. All I can remember is she would take like a feather and wave it, and then I would remember to breathe. It's the silliest thing, but that's like one of my cornerstone memories of, just breathe, practice your breath, ask for guidance. Like it's just very basic, build your bubble And I feel like that building the bubble was the one thing that really got me through a lot of the anxiety and the judgment. Oh, and the pause. It was the bubble and the pause. Those are the two main tools that really got me to like being with my kids, co-parenting with my ex, all of the craziness that happens with those situations. It's funny pulling out the memories.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's so powerful. Thank you for saying that. And also just like for you, like it's so wild to see how far it's come, and, you know, really being able to lean into that child that's inside and go, oh, wow. And, you know, just saying like, you know, your parents are from another country. They came here and there's all these different ways to do things. And who are you within what those dynamics are? And who are you within the dynamic of being a mom within all of that? And those stair steps that we went through years ago, and, you know, even still, she likes the conversation we were having.
She does.
It was so powerful. It woke her up.
Yeah. She's like, what's happening, guys? We were talking to Nevin today, and it's so interesting about kids, right? There are those babies that look at you and you swear that they're looking into your soul, and it makes certain people uncomfortable. I was thinking about that because Nevin was feeling uncomfortable, and I was thinking, you know, it's probably because he's been lying to himself about who he is, that when somebody who's pure looks at you, you want to be better. You want to be the best version of you possible. And when somebody looks at you with that purity and that love, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable because you've been like sabotaging yourself for a long time. And so all those insecurities come up, and all of those stories come up about, am I a good person? Am I not a good person? Am I a bad person? Like whatever stories you tell yourself. I can only imagine what kind of stories, you know, these kids tell themselves. Because what happens with these babies, they're not thinking anything. There's nothing. They have no thoughts. They can only feel emotion and feel if they're comfortable or not comfortable. And they're just looking to try to figure out the patterns of your face, or figuring out if it's safe for them to be around you. Like that's really what's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The basics. They're looking for the basics, the simplicities of safety, security, the root chakra. They're really just grounding themselves here into the root chakra, just the basics: survival, security, support.
Yeah, that's true. It reminds me of the story that you tell of your niece, Rosalind, when you're at the dinner table with your family and she's just like cheesing it up with the strangers.
There was like a party of 6 or 7 that was being escorted to a table near us, and she literally was like trying to hit eyes to every single person. And it was only the one guy at the end that caught eyes with her, but she was just, you know, she was doing this and like cheesing to everybody. Just the light of the space. And it's so interesting to notice because she's just so pure about it. And like I said, out of that whole group of people, only the guy at the end noticed that she was looking at them. No one even noticed her, which was just very, very interesting to me, just how people are so in their own like view and not aware of this energy body, because this can become so overwhelming for them to deal with what's going on around here, that if they just stay really small in here, that maybe they don't have to deal with it. And it's very, very interesting to watch it in the physical, and especially through these little kids that have no idea, and they're just so open to their energy bodies, and they see all of the things, and it's just very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, and it's not surprising though that people don't notice. It's because we're so stimulated. There's so much going on in our minds and in our physical realities that I imagine that the people who ignored her are dealing with so much drama and just so much conditioning that there was no space to see her. like her light was not something that they could experience because they weren't being present to the magic that was around them. They're in their heads. Like that's a big conversation for us, because we notice that when I think about what I'm gonna say, it doesn't come out right. Like because I'm in my head trying to either look good or avoid looking bad. And I noticed that for a lot of other people too, is that when they're speaking, they're speaking for themselves versus wanting to contribute and add value to the conversation. They're not thinking about, oh, how can I make this uplift this conversation to something that's meaningful and delightful for everybody involved.
Right. That's super interesting. This has come up recently as well in another conversation. I feel like it was possibly even covered on one of these podcasts. I can't remember. Just of really, just like, you know, I love that it's all coming up, because this is part of it, is the waiting to talk, or are you listening to channel? And being the observer of the moment. And I think that's also what I meant by like being in our energy body and not being out here, is that we are in our heads because we aren't allowed to feel all of those things because they feel so overwhelming for us to be in those spaces. So, I think it's very interesting to think about what that thought mind is, and are we being the observer, or are we just waiting to talk in our head? And I think it's super interesting. I think you and I were even talking about this the other night, where when we notice someone's waiting to talk, sometimes the conversation looks off. Like there's not even a conversation flowing between the two people, because it's like they're not really listening to what the person said before they talk, because they're just in their head waiting to say whatever they need to say. And so it's super interesting of like, where are we holding our consciousness? Are we holding our consciousness in here, or are we holding it to what that actually is happening around us?
Yeah. And it's hard, especially when especially if you grow up in an environment where everybody's in their head, and or in an environment where you feel like you're the odd one out and you just want to fit in and you just want to belong and you want to feel like part of the conversation. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm just remembering. So I used to live with this group of people, and we would play games together, tabletop games. And I would be sitting around this table and I would be feeling annoyed, and I would be feeling overwhelmed and anxious because there's like multiple people around. And one day after participating in a seminar, one day I come home and I just sit at the table. It's a big round table. Like if you can imagine like Arthur and his knights, it was like that kind of grandiose table. So I sit down at the table and then I just watch people come by and sit. And then I'm just like so happy just to be there that I say nothing. And then people start talking. And so one person would start talking about something, and another person would start talking about something completely different, and then somebody else would chime in about something completely different. And so they're all having these conversations all at the same time, taking turns talking about completely different things that have nothing to do with each other. I'm just watching and being like, wow, there's no connection here in this conversation. So, and it happens a lot.
Well, it's very interesting to notice and to point out, because what's happening is that most people aren't even noticing that that's what's happening. And it's super interesting because it's like the consciousness is not there. And so I think when people are like, well, what does that even mean? I'm conscious, you know? Okay, well, me too. And I'm also still learning in so many ways. Like I have so many ways of learning. I feel like I'm on a conscious journey, but for whatever that means. And I feel like part of working on that conscious journey is noticing the atmosphere around you. And the opportunities that are there when you are able to channel with others. When we are able to use that quote unquote telepath conversation in connecting our vibe, the vibration in which our bodies carry. But when we're holding it in our thought mind and we're going around and around of our projects, our feelings, our emotions, what we're going to say next, we're losing out on that ability to not only hear those nuggets of channel that could be coming through someone else to give us a tool or a support item, but for us to channel what our true spirit would want to say instead of just really searching for it in that moment. And so I think it's an opportunity.
I really love that, because like what you are reminding me of is that as humans, like we are human beings, and the human condition right now is we're all living in our past. And so especially when you experience trauma or you experience something that doesn't feel good, you continue to relive those stories and cycle through those stories over and over again, so that when you do have moments where you feel good, you want to experience those moments over and over again. And so what happens is we continue to live in the past of what we wish could happen, or not what we wish could happen, but living in the past, living in a time that's already existed versus being present in the here and now, being willing to co-create and be vulnerable and experience something new with the people that we're here with now, so that you can create something beautiful in the future. It's very interesting, all of it.
Bro, that was a nugget. Bro, yeah. That was a huge nugget. So like I kind of want to regurgitate. Put that in my journal of words I make up. Okay, is that you're either living in the past, literally, and the universe is giving you that opportunity, because in that moment you're actually might be different people, different house, whatever. However, it's the same energy and the same emotions and the same type of things playing out. And it's an opportunity for you to choose, for us to choose a different path. Okay, what am I going to do tomorrow in the next 2 minutes, in the next 1 second, that is going to bring me into something that is going to possibly not carry out the same thing I've already done before. And if we can notice, then here we are back to that balance in that 7-year cycle of kind of where we started, is being able to notice that we don't want to be doing that over and over again. Like, how much of us want to live in Groundhog's Day? I know that's an old movie, but has anyone ever seen the movie? Groundhog's Day. It's like you wake up every single day with the same day with the same opportunity. How are you going to play it out? What's going to play out? And that really is the idea of life, is that we wake up every day with an opportunity of now.
Yeah. And are you willing to play that game? Are you willing to live that kind of life where, there are so many people, especially in the coaching community, and that talk about your vision and what's your goal, or like, what do you want to achieve, or what's your vision for your life, or what's your big dream? That was my favorite question. What's your big dream? I love asking that question. And if you were to ask random people on the street or in the grocery store, most people would answer, wow, I've never really thought about that. And it really comes down to the conditioning of the world that we're in. We're conditioned to settle, I feel like, to be comfortable, to be okay with how things are. To be in survival mode. Oh gosh, that's a big one. Like, what is it like to be in survival mode? And are you really surviving, or do you want to thrive? And the big thing I think of when it comes to being conscious is giving yourself choice, allowing yourself to choose, versus staying with the inherited conversation that you got from your parents, or you got from not bully, or you got from, school, what have you. Those are all inherited conversations that we soaked in as young children because there was nothing. And so the universe abhors a vacuum. It'll fill it up with whatever is there unless you consciously choose, okay, how am I going to cultivate myself today? How am I going to cultivate myself every second of every day? That's the thing about transformation, is that unless you're actively practicing, unless you're actively looking at your transformation and thinking about transformation, you're not going to. And the reason why you're not going to is because decision fatigue exists. Your brain has to make so many decisions every day that it literally has to be a conscious choice to be a better person, to live up to your highest potential. And sometimes you're not going to want to. So being okay with, I don't want to be transformed today. I don't want to be an evolved human today. Like, all right, cool. Acknowledge it. Don't hide it.
And I think that's great, because that's the pause, right? That's that feminine energy that we're talking about in the balance of like, push, give, let it just chill for a minute. Like, right. I think in this world, like, it's like everyone's just forgot that, like, chill's okay, even though everyone's talking about going to yoga and doing meditation, but really everyone's kind of forgot that, like, wait, I got to sit in this, and then I got to go here, and then I got to, and then I got to, and then I got to, blah, 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 and it's like, no.
You know, the image that I got from you is like, those people who really want to go to yoga. Okay, first I got to get my coffee, and then after I have my coffee, and then I'm going to rush over to yoga, and I'll get there right 1 minute right before I get to the yoga class, and then I'll be done in an hour, and I'll go to my next thing.
That's it. Like, that's and that's not really creating the pause. It's not really sinking into that feminine energy. It's not really creating the balance, which I believe we're back to. And I really love that you really cultivated that back too, because I kind of think that wraps us into this conversation of balance and where we really came into, and we were really asking the cards in the beginning, and just kind of wrap that into ending this up, is that the last few cards that came out were really about standing in your leadership, being fearless. It's time to take action, pursue in who you are, find the balance, the self-love, the courage to bring intellectual solutions into power, standing in letting go what doesn't serve us anymore, and allowing us to stand in what is here, letting the inputs coming in, the new relationships, and those emotional boundaries to stand up for who we need to be for this world that is unfolding now, if you will, to put those in the right words, because a lot of the new age stuff is coming out, but really it's a new world every day, and we're unfolding into it. And this conversation around balance is really bringing up more conversations that I know we're going to have. I feel like what you just said really hit on some generational patterns, which I started to want to talk about. And I was like, new topic, rant, rant, rant. We probably should stop now. Because I was like, I go on like a whole nother hour coming on. But anyways, I felt like this was really cool to like wrap up balance in the pod.
Thanks for being on point and like bringing us back to what got us here in the first place. So that's really awesome. I would love for you to like take pictures of those cards so that we can like really look at them on the outside. Because when your channel comes through, it comes through fast.
That's why I was like, let me just lay them out, and then at the end I'll kind of tell the story, and that was the story. So if anyone needs to rewind, I guess we should. There went the channel. Sorry, there you go.
True. And
I absolutely love this. I'm so glad that we have been chatting about coming on here, and that you came on here with me, and that we dove into this really awesome conversation. And you know, it's leading up to before recording this, it's been like, what is the topic? And, you know, to bring back that balance, we don't need to know the topic. The topic is right now. The energy of right now will tell us the topic. And yes, we have a list of topics, and this was one of them. And you know what? The cards, the spirit, the channel comes out and lets us know. And that's part of manifesting, is that we manifested a list of topics. We wrote them down, and then we let it go. And then we came on here and we allowed spirit to channel through which one of those topics would be here. And so balance, being in the present, and standing in who we are and allowing those emotional things that come into us is okay. And it's part of that cycle of being in who we are, the feminine new ways. Rue, you're amazing. Your channel is amazing. Your motherhood is amazing. All your projects are amazing. And I'm so excited for more conversations that we will be having here soon.
Hey, like, subscribe, comment below.
And she barked on cue.
She
okay,
did.
I'll stop the recording.
How fun.